a time when I used to panic at these kind of things, and I got a little panicky there. I almost called my wife and said, honey, come help me because I'm in trouble. But it looks like it's working now. It said something about my audio. My microphone is not working. And so, Cindy, if you're watching and you're not hearing, would you please come out here and help me do something? Because it says that it's not working. At least it said it wasn't working, but maybe it is now. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful to have you on a Mother's Day morning. Really good to have you along. Here we go. Are you ready? Turn this thing on, Sonny. All right, I've turned it on. Look at there. All right, me and Mr. I don't know what you'd call this guy. He's Bloodshot. Bloodshot Bobby. That's what we're going to call him. Bloodshot Bobby. I don't know. I guess he stayed up too late on Saturday night. Now it's the Lord's Day and he's not ready. He should have gone to bed early, right? Basic Bible. Glad to have you with me this morning. I hope that this will be really encouraging stuff. There's that funny face of me that Gabriel drew. All right, here we go. Knock, knock. Who's there? Theodore. Theodore who? Theodore is stuck and it won't open. You got to admit, some of these are about as corny as they can be, but I think they're precious. Theodore is stuck and it won't open. All right, segment number uno. Mr. Bobby, what do we call him? Bloodshot Bobby. Do the doodle. Do the doodle. Here is the land of Israel. And as you know, we're trying to memorize 7 different locations on that particular map. And let's just do us a poem so that we can put that little thing together. Oh, we got to take this down. Sorry about that, Bloodshot Bobby. Going to have to leave us and go do something else. All right. Here's the poem. We've done that. My question is, can you quote the 4th verse? Ooh, can you do it? Well, here it is. If you couldn't, just below Galilee. Oh, that's the 3rd verse. Halfway down from that spot, so halfway down, lies a land that the Jews forgot. This area right in here. There the Lord met this wife, saw her pass and changed her life. Samaria. Okay. And so that's really cool stuff. And if you can remember, and by the way, next time for the grand finale of our overwhelmingly wonderful testing period, you're going to have to quote all 4 verses. So you might as well go ahead and get them in your head right now. There they are. Take you a screenshot of that so that you got them. And you need to be running around the house all week long quoting those 4 verses, because those 4 verses help you to identify those 7 places on our map. All right. Now, let's just go ahead and get those 7 places so that we are all on the same page, not a different page. Mediterranean Sea, Sea of Galilee, Jordan River, Dead Sea, Jerusalem, Nazareth, and Samaria. So there's your 7 locations. I'll stand here in the middle so my head's in the middle. See how that is? I'm in the middle. So now you got both the stuff over here and the stuff over here that you can match, and I still am in the picture. Oh dear. I know. Okay. All right. There. Is that better? Okay. Axe to the max. Let's doodle the whole book together. You know what I'm saying? The book. And doodle it. Not like we haven't been doing that. In fact, this is our last and celebrations, and we got ticker tape parades, and we've got confetti flying in the background, and we've got rockets shooting in midair. Woo! We're in our last chapter, chapter 28. What's that look like to you? Does that look like a viper? It's supposed to be a snake, which is a viper, and that's what happened. Old Paul, he's going to land on the island of Malta. Remember we did that last time, shipwreck and all that? That was last chapter, right? 27. 28, guess what's going to happen while he's on the island of Malta? Oh, yeah. He's going to get bit by a snake. And they're going to think he's going to die and everything. We'll tell you that later on. But he also, later on in chapter 28, as we end the marvelous book of Acts, we are going to find him in Rome, which is where he intended to go in the first place. And he's wanted to go to Rome for a long time. I don't think he necessarily wanted to go to Rome in the way that he got to Rome. You know what I'm saying? Slave ship, shipwrecked, bit by a snake, all that kind of thing. But he does get there. And so that's it. Okay. Segment number 1, testing you. What is the 4th verse from a zip-up? Can you quote it? And then what are the 7 major... Yes, I did say 7. Yes, you're going to have to... 7. And can you draw the chapter memory clue? I think you can, because I believe in you. Okay, let's have a moment of brevity. Does God laugh? Yes, I believe he does. Silly sayings. The best way to teach your children about taxes is to go ahead and eat 30% of their ice cream. We just got done doing our taxes, and Cindy, and it wasn't a funny deal. Cindy was telling Gabriel about taxes and all that, and poor the young man had to pay in this year, and he gone into the workforce and all that kind of stuff. And she said, "You can just about go ahead and calculate it. It's going to be about 30%." Think about that, folks. Almost a third of your income is going to old Uncle Sam. Now, this is not about taxing, and so we're not going to talk about that right now. I just accept to say, if you're going to prepare your children for the future, go ahead and eat 30% of their ice cream. All right, segment number 2, make a memory. And here, this is just amazing, people. You're amazing, because most of you can give me all of those. You look at that picture and you say to yourself, Sonny, I know what that is. And Sonny, I know what that is. And Sonny, I know who got baptized there. That's Philip and the eunuch. And I know that that's Saul becomes Paul and he's going to get baptized. And I know that Peter and John heal the lame man. And you're just amazing. Remember, first 12 chapters belong primarily to Peter. All right. Then as you progress beyond that, more than 12 chapters. So it's not quite in half, but as you progress beyond that, you got even more stuff that you guys remember. You're just like communion on the first day of the week, you know, and here Paul and Silas in jail at Philippi. And isn't it amazing? So that takes it through 23. But then there's also these last ones here. Oh, I forgot to let that one kind of dissolve in. But anyhow, there you go. Remember, 4, 5, and 6. He's on trial. So those are easy peasy. You ought to be able to put those in your head pretty quickly, okay? 4, 5, and 6, boom. All right. And then 24, 5, and 6. And then 27, shipwreck. Remember that? And now here we are, island of Malta. We're going to get not shipwrecked. We already did that. What are we going to get? We're going to get snake bit. That's what we're going to do. So that's how you remember. You can see, can you see the 2 and the 8? You can, because you're smart. 2 and 8. Yeah. Woo-hoo-hoo. Make a memory. Acts 28 and verse 3. That's the memory verse that I would put before you if you wanted to memorize something out of this marvelous chapter. When Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and put them on the fire, a viper, that's a snake, a viper came out because of the heat and fastened on his hand. Snakes. I don't like snakes. Do you like snakes? I don't like snakes. Did I mention that I don't like snakes? Well, a snake came out because I guess he was, he's trying to put the sticks on the fire, and the snake says, I don't want to be in the fire. And so the snake comes out and bites him in the hand. Not a good thing. But it all turns out just fine. But you have to wait until we get later into the apply the thing. Isn't that the part? Somewhere later on we're going to talk about it. Okay. Here's how you can memorize that. Of course, last time, I better go back because you guys will be mad at me. Take the 5 phrases, say them 5 times. Not 5, there's 6 of them in there. 6 phrases. Say them 5 times each. Okay, we've done that. You know that. All right, and then you blank out some major words, and you got to go around guessing what those words are, saying it over and over in your head, and then you're going to be able to memorize it. All right. Test preparation. What is the major topic of this particular chapter? As you picture the 2 and the 8 making a viper or a snake, you're thinking to yourself, I know the topic. The topic is Paul gets snake bit on the island of Malta. And I say, give yourself high fives because that's an amazing thing that you just said. And then, can you quote the memory verse? Now, that's probably not possible at this particular moment unless you're like crazy brilliant. But you might be able to. But give yourself a few words of that, saying it over and over and over again, over and over and over again. Do that, and then maybe you'll have it in your brain. You'll be better than me because I can't keep anything in my brain. I forget my own name sometimes. Okay, let's be silly. Time to laugh. That's what Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 4 says. So let's just do that. What can travel all the way around the world and still stay in one corner? This one's not so much funny as it is kind of a mystery. Do you like mysteries? Do you like to just kind of figure things out? Well, this is one of those figure things out moments. It's a riddle. That's the word I couldn't get out of my head. A riddle. What can travel all the way around the world and still stay in one corner? That sounds like an impossibility to me. To stay in a corner, but yet travel all the way around the world. You got the answer? Here I go. I'm fixing to click it, so you better say it. Go ahead and shout it out loud. Oh, you're too late. A postage stamp. Well, again, that's not overly funny. I get that. You're probably not rolling on the ground right now, holding your belly, just crying tears because you're laughing so hard. No. But it is kind of a cute little thing of what, but think about it. What can travel all the way around the world, still stay in the corner of the envelope? A postage stamp. Now, some of you young snippers probably don't even know what a postage stamp is, but some of you might. And if you don't know, ask your mom and dad. They'll tell you that back in the day, and even today, there are a lot of things that have to come through the mail with the postage stamp. And it goes in the top right-hand corner, and it stays in the corner. And even if you're mailing it all the way to the other side of the world, it's going to stay in the corner. Oh, my. See the things you learn? The things you learn by showing up are crazy, aren't they? You didn't know you were going to learn about postage stamps today, and frankly, I didn't know I was going to teach about them, but here we are. Now let us ponder a passage. That's the thing I was talking about earlier. Ponder a passage. That's when we expand the passage so that we can ponder it. Okay, let's do it. Are you ready? Here's the passage, and we're in chapter 28, which is the last chapter of our marvelous book. Notice what we're doing here. Jerusalem. Caesarea. Where's he going next? Malta. That's exactly right. He's going to go to Malta. And I probably should have continued my thing because he also is going to end up here in Rome. But I didn't. I don't have another thing. That's all I got. Now, why is it a crooked little squiggly? Why? Go ahead and answer it. Go ahead and say it out loud like I can hear you because I can't. But go ahead and say it. Okay. Did you say it? It's a squiggly because remember they get lost at sea because the big thing that stormed and they get thrown off course and then they shipwreck over here on Malta. Yeah, that's what that's all about. All right, well here's our passage, and there are three things, as I typically like to do. There are three things that we would like to look upon in this particular passage. Number one, Malta. After we were brought safely through, we learned that the island was called Malta. Because remember, last time they didn't even know where they were, right? Well, they finally wash up on the shore and they meet the natives, and the natives say, well, this land is called Malta. And they said, well, looky there. And so now they know that they're in Malta, which is right there. The native people showed us unusual kindness, for they kindled a fire and welcomed all of us. That was nice of them. Maybe they're still on the beach. I don't know, but they made a big bonfire because they're sopping wet, right? They just been swimming out the sea, right? And so they made them a bonfire and they welcomed us. Hey, we're glad you're here. Because it had begun to rain and was cold. Talk about a bad day that gets worse. They've been in a shipwreck and they wash up on shore. And now it's raining and cold. But anyhow, we got us a nice bonfire. And so with Paul, you got to appreciate old Paul. He just washed up on the bank. But he's gone and helping gather up sticks. You got to appreciate that, old boy. Paul gathered a bundle of sticks and he put them on the fire. Oh, there it is. A viper came out because of the heat and fastened on his hand. Oh, did I tell you I don't like snakes? Yeah. So he's putting the wood right there on the fire and the snake comes out. Whoop! Got right there in the hand. And it says, when the native people saw the creature hanging from his hand, they said to one another, oh dear, no doubt this man is a murderer. Though he escaped from the sea, justice has not allowed him to live. And so they believed that when bad things happened, it happened because that particular person he was a bad person. And here this guy is that, he washes up on shore from a slave ship. And so he must have been a bad dude to begin with. They're thinking to themselves, maybe he's a murderer. And even though he didn't drown, Fate is going to get him, or the gods, or whatever they're thinking is going to get him. And there you go. Snake bites him. And he's going to swell up and he's going to die. But it don't happen because he's God's man. Pretty cool story here. All right, verse 5. He, however, shook off the creature into the fire and suffered no harm. So throws it in the fire. So that snake ended up in the fire whether it wanted to be there or not. But anyhow, shook it off, put it in the fire. They were waiting for him to swell up and suddenly fall down dead. They thought this, he can't last long. We know how the snakes are on this island. But when they had waited a long time and they saw no misfortune come to him, they changed their mind and said, well, then he must be a god. So he's gone from being a murderer to a god because he can survive the snake. I'm going to talk about that here in just a moment. But there's your story. Okay. Everybody got that story in their head? Good. I'm glad it's in your head. Test prep number 3, segment 3, I should say. Upon what island did they wash up? You know that. What bit Paul? On and on you can go there. All right. And by the way, moms and dad, I think you should take viper or snakes. Snake in that particular one, but you do what you want to. Anyhow, there you go. Oops, did I just give you guys an answer to your question? I'm easy. You know what I'm saying? All right, moving along here. Another moment of brevity. What plant is the most surprised after being hit? Now, if you will look at the picture behind my head, it will give you a clue. What plant is most surprised after being hit? Well, clearly it is the bamboo. Get it? Being hit, bam, and is most surprised. Boo, 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 boo. I honestly didn't think it was that funny either, but it's in the list, and so I decided to use it. Segment number 4. Apply the why. I love this part because this is where we get down to what does it matter? Why are we even studying this stuff, Sonny? Why do I need to read chapter 28 of the book of Acts? Does it do anything for me? Does it change my life? Yes, it does. And that's why apply the why is so important. And by the way, I tell this to young people all the time. When you study the Bible, you need to ask this question. Now, this is not to be nasty. I'm not asking it in a nasty way. I'm just saying, who cares? Read the Bible, read a verse, and then say, who cares? And then answer that. Why should I care about this passage? And then don't leave it until you find a way to make that passage change your life. Because the Bible is not just for memorizing. It's not just a bunch of fancy stories. The Bible is first and foremost a book that challenges us to change and to become better people. Anyhow, so that's the apply the why. So let's come back here. Now, here's the part that I thought we would apply. When the native people saw the creatures on his hand, they said, oh, man, he's got to be a bad guy. Got to be a murderer. And just because he escaped the sea, fate's still going to get him. And so they conclude he had to be a bad guy because something bad had happened to him. Did you ever wonder if suffering is because of the bad we do? Did you ever wonder about that? If you stub your toe in the middle of the night as you're getting out of bed to go to the bathroom, is that because you're a bad person? Or a tree limb falls on you and splits your upper lip or lower lip like it did to me a week ago. Does that mean I'm a bad person? Do people get snake bit because they're bad? And I don't have the time really to explain this in a big, lengthy manner, but you need to know something about our world. And that is that we are all dependent upon each other, okay? And just like you go to the store and you buy a gallon of milk, that gallon of milk didn't just come from the store. It also came from a farmer who got it from a cow. And you see, we're all dependent upon each other. And so let's say that the cow eats something bad, sour, and it turns its milk sour. And the farmer gets the milk from the cow, and then the milk goes to the grocery store, and then your mom buys it from the grocery store, and then you drink the milk. And it's, ooh. Now, is it your fault that you drank milk? No, it's not your fault. Is it your mom's fault? Well, not really. I mean, but she did buy it. Is it the store's fault? Well, not really, but they did get it from the farmer. Is it the farmer's fault? Well, not really. because the farmer got it from the cow. Is it the cow's fault? Well, not really, because the cow didn't know it was eating anything sour. You see how we all are on top of each other in the sense that we all depend upon each other. So let's come back to something. If something bad happens to you, it could be because you made a bad choice. And so bad things happen to you. But a lot of times it's not so much because you made a bad choice, but because we live in a broken world where somebody else has made a bad choice. And that bad choice affects all of us. The situations where, somebody gets the flu and has to go to the hospital and stay a very, very long time. Are they a bad person because they had the flu? Or is it because we live in a world where we no longer live in the Garden of Eden, where there was no flu, there was no sickness, it was perfect? Well, why don't we live in the Garden of Eden anymore? Because people sinned. And so just because a bad thing happens to you, it doesn't necessarily mean that you did the sinning. It means that you live in a sinful setting. But it can mean that you did the sinning if you make a bad choice. Did that help? Did you like my cow illustration? All right, here we go. Test prep for segment number cuatro. Is that right? Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. That's right. All right, be prepared to write a short paragraph explaining why good people suffer. Now, feel free to use my cow illustration if you need to, but all I want you really to explain in that is that it's not necessarily because you personally have sinned, but because people around us or before us have sinned, and that's what creates the situation. But also make sure that you mention in your little paragraph that it might be because I make bad choices. You make bad choices, okay? All right. One last moment of brevity. Seems like cows are in the fashionable moment here in our time together. Let's just ask the question, where do cows like to go on Friday night? So that cow who gave us the bad milk, he's pretty sad and he needs to get out of the house and do something for fun. Where does he go? Well, clearly he goes to the movies. Now, that one I did think was funny. I actually did laugh at that one. All right, segment number 5, which happens to be the last segment. It's called Time to Test. You got this. Now you're saying to yourself, Sonny, is this going to be the last lesson? No, it's not. Buckle up your pants and be ready for another one, because next time, which is the 16th moment together, we are going to review. But here's a testable. Yeah, this is a testable moment. We're going to test you now. And you got this. So here you go, guys. I believe in you. Test number 15. I can't believe it. But there are all of the questions. See, we even down here. Write a short paragraph explaining why good people suffer. See, I got them all right there. Isn't that cool? So there you go. I know. Step aside. See, I know. Okay, there you go. Can you get the, what do you call that? Snapshot? Screenshot? Whatever shot. Just go ahead and shoot that. Oh, there you go. So, as you look upon this particular screen, you notice that we are quickly approaching the end. And so, to prepare you for next time, let me encourage you to kind of go back through. And probably the best thing for you to do is to go back through all the picture clues and review what happened in this chapter, that chapter, the other chapter. Okay. And if you can get those picture clues in your mind so you can say all 28 chapters, you're probably going to do fine on the grand finale test. Okay. But that's very important. Get all of those clues in your mind. And in addition to that, make sure that you know those 7 landmarks in Israel. Okay. Because those are really going to be the 2 biggies that you're going to see on the grand finale test. All right. I clicked it. It did not move. There we go. If you found this particular study to be beneficial, would you please pray for, she's over here. Never mind. Right there. Pray for my wife. She has to live with me. Could you pray for Cindy? Pray for my wife. all that she does. And you can pray for me too, because I need it bad. And that we will be able to continue to do good things and continue to put them out there online for you. And we could continue to laugh together and be amazed at how cool God is. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for being with me. Time to pray. Step out of here for a second so you can see all this. I'll explain this here in just a moment. But first of all, let's go to all of this. Prayer time, and now's the time for you to go ahead and put on the list there. Got my buddy Dennis. He's all the way over there in Kenya. So literally people around the world will be listening and praying for your prayer request if you want to go ahead and put it on there. Russia and Ukraine, continue to be praying about that war that's ongoing. My buddy Dennis, who's online now, he's got another opportunity to go back and to preach and teach some of the young people that were baptized during a previous time that he had traveled to. I think it's about 6-7 hours from where he lives. And he's got an opportunity to go back and to continue that. And so let's be praying for Dennis and supporting him as we try to do here at the School of Biblical Studies. The abortion controversy, all of a sudden that's become front and center. And a lot of folks believe that it could impact the upcoming elections because of some dirty politics that took place. And anyhow, but remember the abortion controversy. Let's continue to pray that God will protect the most innocent of our culture, and that's the child within the womb. MAP summer. Can't tell you how more. I am so excited about this MAP summer. My youngest son and, my oldest son too, because he's on the board of directors, but it's primarily going to be directed by my youngest son and a good friend of mine named Daryl, who's a very experienced missionary, literally grew up on the mission field. But anyhow, they are going to be basically directing this coming summer, and the classes sound great. And so if you've not signed up for that yet, reach out to me and I'll let you know about it, because it's going to be a really awesome summer and I'd love to have you be a part of it. The elections that are here, as well as in Kenya, my buddy Dennis tells me it's just as messy over there as it is here. Election season. Gabriel continues to travel, although he's going to be home this week as he does some work around here, but he continues to travel back and forth to the Memphis area as he works with this missionary couple and prepares for the MAP summer. So please continue to be in prayer for my buddy Gabriel. And by the way, next Sunday, it looks like next Sunday, God willing, he's going to be presenting a report on his trip to Honduras. If you're interested in knowing that, when that's going to be, I'll try to broadcast it live. Let me know, or if you're in the area, you can come and attend. And then a big transition in my mom and dad's life that we'll be telling you more about as I can take pictures and put it up here. But it's a pretty big deal as to what's going on in their life. We're really excited about it, but pray for my dad, especially as he struggles with his energy levels and things that he wants to get done with this particular project. And of course, my mom as well. Happy Mom's Day. And especially to my mom, who I love. She brought me into the world. She can take me out. But I love her so very much. Thanks, Mom, for being a good mom. Lord's Day Live sermon segment, and you're with me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, we continue in our series within a series. The overlapping series is Real-Time Christianity, Practical Principles for Christianity, but the second series within the overlapping series that we've been talking about this semester is Storming the Gates of Hell. And as we continue to look at this subject, I got a passage for you this morning that I think is I don't just think, I know it's really, really profound. And if we will put these principles to play in our life, apply them in our life, we can literally storm the gates of hell as we need to. All right, here we go. The first, here are the 5 questions for those of you who are part of the School of Biblical Studies. And get those and write them down as we continue through here. I hope those are the right questions. Those look a lot like gentleness and respect. What else do we have to? I'm not sure. You know what? I think I might have not changed your questions. Oh dear. It's been a crazy week. If these are not the appropriate questions, and I don't think they are, then you just need to buckle up and listen very, very closely, because you're not going to get the heads up on what 5 questions you're going to have to answer when it comes to the final test. Oh, I can't believe I did that. I'm so sorry, people. Please forgive me. Here's our passage that we've been launching out of. Remember, Jesus talking to Peter, and he's talking about the church, and he says, look, about the church, he says the gates of hell are not going to be able to prevail against the gates of hell. And so if the gates of hell cannot prevail against the church. What would happen if the church took the battle to the gates of hell? And we began to reclaim those who have been stolen by the claws of the devil. Well, that's the point of this particular series. And I want to take you now to 2 Corinthians chapter 10, where we've been launching out of for our 3 points. Remember, we've got superior standards, we've got superior source of power, and we've got superior strategy. We're going to demolish strongholds. And I want to backpedal now in the book of 2 Corinthians and take you to a different passage that is going to share with us some more points with regards to strategy. In chapter 3, Paul says, since we have such a hope, we're very bold. Not like Moses, who put a veil over his face so that the Israelites might not gaze at the outcome of what was being brought to an end. But their minds were hardened, for to this day, when they read the Old Covenant, that same veil remains unlifted, because only through Christ is it taken away. Yes, to this day, whenever Moses is read, a veil lies over their hearts. But when one turns to the Lord, but when one turns to the Lord, things change. The veil is removed. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit is, the Lord is. And where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And we all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. What I'd like to do is I'd like to take 3 lessons from that paragraph that we can add to our strategy as we're storming the gates of hell. The first lesson that I would draw is this idea that since we have such a hope, then we are very bold. All 3 of these are going to have something equals something. In this part, it's pretty clear that hope is going to equal boldness. Now, that's not hard to figure out. If you feel confident in your future, then you can be bold in the present. Let me turn it kind of upside down. If you don't really care about this physical life, if this is not where all of your priorities are, if your treasures are not laid up on earth, but they're laid up in heaven, then you can be bold to the point that a person can threaten you, like the man who had a gun pointed to his head by a terrorist, and he said, "Look, if you don't deny Jesus, I'm going to pull the trigger." And the Christian man, he kind of laughed and he said, "Are you really threatening me with heaven? If heaven is what it's all about, if going to be with the Lord is your supreme passion and desire, if that is your hope, then you're going to be bold." Now remember, hope, in the biblical sense, hope is not wishful thinking. It's not, I hope. I had an elder years ago tell me that I hope I go to heaven, but if I get through the pearly gates, it's going to be by the skin of my teeth. And I thought, that's a very, very sad, sad condition, especially for somebody who's supposed to be mature in their spiritual thought. Hope is not, I hope I just barely make it through. No, hope, the Greek word hope, actually means confident expectation. It's like John 14, where Jesus says, "I go to prepare a place for you." You're not there yet, but you have confidence that he went. And Jesus goes on saying, "If I go to prepare a place for you, I'll come again and get you." And that's your hope. We have confidence that which Jesus promised is going to take place. I'm not going to stay in the grave. He conquered death for me. So take that now and make big applications to storming the gates of hell. So if you've got a neighbor, you got a family member or a friend who is literally on the fast track to hell, and you're trying to do your best to keep them from that, one of the strategies you need to use is sharing your hope. And be bold. And your boldness is going to be directly rooted in your hope, because you're going to be a person who shows joy, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, good. That's fruit of the Spirit. Did he not mention the Spirit repeatedly in this paragraph? We're going to show evidences of our confidence, our hope, and that is going to give us a bold testimony that is going to draw people to be like us. One of the things I had noticed over the years in my own personal ministry is that one of the most effective times to share the gospel with someone is when they're in the grips of discouragement and despair, hospital visitation, People who are struggling at home because they have financial problems, or they just lost a child to the world, or whatever. Those moments are moments when they are really feeling vulnerable. If you walk in and you share your hope in a very bold way, the glory of God is here. And what you need to do is wrap yourself up in the Savior. If you can do that, you present it in such a fashion that in their desperation, they're going to reach out for something. And our job is to make sure that they reach out for the Savior. Since we have such a hope, guess what it's going to do? It's going to make us very bold. My question for you by way of application is, how bold is your testimony? How bold are you in sharing the blessings of God and letting people know? I'm trying harder and harder not to be obnoxious, but to respond to people. Whenever they say, I hope you have a good day, I try to respond, I hope you have a blessed day. Because I want God to be a part of that. And when somebody says, boy, you're really lucky, I try to respond, nah, I'm blessed by God. Because I want to be bold. I want to make sure that they recognize where my hope is rooted. It's not rooted in luck. My hope is rooted in the fact that every good and perfect gift comes down from the Father of lights. If I got something good in my life, it's not because of luck. It's because God gave it to me. And so I want to be bold enough to make sure that I put that out there. I want to be bold enough to make sure that when I sit down at a table to eat, even if it's in a public restaurant, I'm going to say a prayer. I want to be bold enough to wear T-shirts that have a message on them that brings glory to God, and have been on many occasions stopped by people in Walmart or wherever and ask about my T-shirt. I want to have those conversations. When I'm sitting beside somebody in the waiting room at the doctor's office, I want to make sure that I do my best to open up a conversation that can eventually lead them to knowing God. A hope that leads to boldness. Think, what are they going to do? You seriously going to threaten me with heaven? Number two, as you move past the meat or the bulk of this material, and you kind of come down here to the conclusionary stuff that I mentioned to you or try to emphasize to you in the reading, but, transitional word, but when one turns to the Lord, instead of what's going on up here where they were operating with a veiled heart. Remember, Moses comes down from the mountain, he has to put a veil over because his face is shining so brightly, okay? Well, Jesus is using, or Paul is using this now, to illustrate the fact that even to this very day, Paul said, the Jews have a veil over their face, over their eyes, their heart. They're not seeing the vivid nature of who God is. But when you turn to the Lord, guess what? That veil is removed, and you no longer have to look at it kind of through another barrier. Nah, you can see it boldly, if you will, because the veil has been removed. Now, the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit is, the Lord is, and there is freedom. The second point is transparency is going to equal freedom. You take that veil off, and you're going to have, now, this is very similar to the first point, but in the first point, we're going to have a hope of what's to come, and that's going to lead to boldness. In the second point, transparency is going to lead to freedom. In the context specifically, the transparency is that I can see God. I have a relationship with God. It's not just I have a relationship with the coming experiences of heaven. No, it's bigger than that. I have a relationship with God himself. And so let's go back to my illustration of sitting in the waiting room there at the doctor's office, and you're having a conversation with somebody. You really need to move that conversation beyond just the simple fact that, one day we're all going to leave this planet, and I hope that you go to heaven. That's good, but that's not the best. What we need to move them into is an understanding that the desire of my heart is to be in the presence of the Lord. I want to be next to the Lord. If we can go there, then you see, we take them to a lot of people live their life hoping to go to heaven. And that's okay, but it's not a very mature kind of a motive. You need to live your life hoping to go into the presence of God. I just want to be with God. Meaning, what if God and I'm not saying that this is the case, but what if God decided he wasn't going to be in heaven no more? He's going to be in Alaska. Would you want to go to Alaska? It's not about the context of the city that is described in the book of Revelation and other places, as much as it is the context of being with God. Now, all of those illustrations are talking about his area. I get that. But I think sometimes our heart is more tied to proximities than it is relationships. How much do you love God and want to be with God? It allows the illustration, but every once in a while, Cindy wants me to go shopping with her. And she's not a big shopper. She doesn't like shopping that much. But if you take her to a place like Hobby Lobby, Cindy can get lost in Hobby Lobby. And I'm just not that much into it, to be honest with you. But I love my wife. I mean, there's nobody on the planet I love like my wife. And sometimes I can tell she just really wants to go to Hobby Lobby. And here's my thought. If my wife's going to be in Hobby Lobby, you know where I want to be? Now, remember, I'm not big on shopping. And I'm not really big on, I like Hobby Lobby, the Christian aspect of it, but I'm not big on shopping in Hobby Lobby. But you know what? My wife wants to be in Hobby Lobby. So you know where I want to be? Same with God. That transparency, knowing God, seeing his face, the unveiled glory of who he is through the Spirit, man, that's freedom. Wow, that's freedom. And the freedom, this breath of fresh air to share your testimony, then it becomes quite powerful. Remember, to storm the gates of hell. Number 3. If my clicker will click, there it is. And then lastly, as you come on down here, and we all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, which I just talked to you about, are being transformed into the same image from the great. So there's a transformation process that's happening because of the transparency. And the transformation is into the same image. So we're going to reflect him. The last thing then in storming the gates of hell with regards to strategy in this lesson is that as a reflection of the transformation, we should be able to draw people to Jesus. But here's the problem, and it's a little bit of a heavy application, but very important for you to see this. If you're not being transformed, what are you reflecting? It's not God. If there's one thing that God wants of you, it is to continue to grow. I am absolutely convinced that when he created Adam, it was in his heart, his desire to walk with Adam and over time show him all the things that he has created and the glories that are awaiting Adam and the relationship that they're going to develop over time and all those kinds of things. I'm convinced that's what God wanted to happen. But of course, Adam and Eve, they cut that short, and the transformation process was, almost ended before it got started. As we, with unveiled faces, continue to see the glory of Jesus, the glory of God in this world, we are being transformed. Here, let me get a little harsh. But if you're going to church on Sunday morning, sitting in a pew facing the back of the head of the fellow of you, in front of you, participating in basically a spectator religion, if I could ask you this question pointedly, where, when, what have you done recently that is a major change in your life? And if you go back on what I just said there, and yes, I'm one of those who's part of spectator religion, and honestly, I don't change too much. I'm pretty much the same way as I was 10 years ago. In fact, my religion is pretty much a clone of what great grandpa did all those years ago. If there's no transformation, if there's no change, can you honestly say you're reflecting Jesus? Are you reflecting the journey that God wants you to be on? Where you continue to grow, you continue to discover new things about him. And because of that reflection, you're able to draw people. You see, probably one of the greatest parts of our testimony is showing the world how we have changed. How Jesus has moved in and made us different. But if we're not transforming, if we're the brother stuck in the mud, and I'm the same as I was 30 years ago, or as I like to call them, Sister Blue Hair, back when I was a young man, they all sat in the auditorium, their hair was blue because, I don't know, That was back in the day. They thought that it was best to, I don't know, blue hair. But some of those ladies they were nothing more than just stuck in a spiritual condition. They believed that they were that because they were 65 and they had come to these particular conclusions and they weren't growing no more. Those folks are not reflecting Jesus because there's no transformation. And so I ask you rather pointedly, how are you different than last month? Spiritually speaking, are you any more mature? Are you any closer to being like Jesus? Have you seen anything radical as far as change is concerned in your particular life? Or is your viewpoint changing? Are you growing in your maturity as far as motives? If you're not changing, if all you're doing is showing up 3 times a week, sitting in those pews underneath the vaulted ceiling and thinking that you paid off God, then you're not this. And you're not going to be able to do that. Hope is going to lead to boldness and transparency of God showing us who he is. That's going to lead to freedom. Oh man, power and the freedom. And then we're changed by that. And that transformation is going to be a reflection of who Jesus is in us. And it's going to draw people out of the furnace and back into the arms of Jesus. That's the goal. That's where we're supposed to be. Are you doing it? Is that what it's about? Is that a description of you? I love you. I thank you for joining me each week. Please continue to support me and my family ministry as we continue to do good things, hopefully, for the Lord. I thought this was an awesome picture. Snapped this, I don't know, a week or so ago. And this is our home church. And this is my grandson, 5 years old, and he's passing out communion. And that's just an old cardboard box that we cut holes in the top so we can put our little communion, anyhow. There's my dad and my mom. And yeah, our home church scenario is pretty simple, but it's innocent. And I'm telling you, it's meaningful. May I encourage you this Lord's Day to gather your family together and have an intimate moment with the Lord. Thanks for being with me. This is Sonny Chow saying, be there. Matthew 16:26.